Today I brought you to a very specific point in the creek, and that is because of this unique water feature right here. Now, barring the rains coming down and washing us away, the intent is to build a primitive stone static fish trap. Now, it might seem after a while, because we're going to be incorporating this waterfall right here into the trap, that it requires some fairly unique characteristics, and a couple variables are going to be thrown in there to make sure that it works really well. But the idea whenever you see these fish trap videos is that it's not going to work for every body of water. Okay, you need to have options. There is not an ideal one-size-fits-all fish trap, and that's what this is all about. Now we're going to be building it out of crushed sandstone. It's going to be very simple, not too elegant, but it doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to work. We'll get started, but before that, I want to show you some of the attributes over here of the waterway we'll be building this. Now, it is a static fish trap, and that means wherever you place it, it's going to be staying there. So the effort you put into it, you want to make sure you get as much out of it as possible. So stepping over this, take a look at the water itself. Now, it's not a great amount of water, and with a lot of these, you can actually control the water flow. It's got a good drop on it. We're going to be building the trap down here in this pool. I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. But the idea is going to be that the fish are going to be pushed or travel down into it and get trapped. And the water is just so that they can actually swim back up. Now, if you have too much water coming through here, a lot of times you can change that up by breaking out even further and smoothing out and stretching out the waterfall. Okay, so if the waterfall is a little bit wider, your water is going to get a lot thinner or not as deep, and that'll keep a lot of your fish from being able to kind of salmon jump back up. So come on over here and check this out. Now, there are two glorified water holes, or waterfalls. Now, this one over here, we're not going to be actually modifying that today, but if you needed the water to come up in level, because these waters do change quite a bit, they go down, they come up, you could go ahead and dam that up or open it up further to kind of adjust and modify your water flow. Now, take a look. As we walk along this sandstone shelf, you can see all the minnows, small fish, moving to kind of get away from our movement. Alright, so right there, that'll tell you that there's lots of bait fish in there and survival. Protein's protein. Even if you're having to eat minnows, you're not going to be too picky once you get to a certain point in starvation. So the idea is that you want a location that has lots of protein inside of it. As you can see back over here, we can go ahead and walk over there. This leads to larger and larger pools, and that means that once you start to trap these guys down in your trap, after a while you'll get more and more migration, and you can continue trapping with the same trap. So the effort you put in will keep on giving. So come on down. I'll show you what's going on. Now, this shelf right here, you could easily go ahead and dam this up. That's going to bring up the water level on this side. And that's an important feature and an important consideration, because you want this trap to work as long as possible. And the creek changes. Okay, so if you've seen the video months ago, the creek was about 20 foot over our head right here. And that's not going to catch any fish. About a week and a half ago, this creek was actually dry right here. There was no water. So understand that the things that you depend upon, whether it's that fish trap, the protein it provides you, those things can change. And you want to prepare for it. So have lots of options. Build what you can, but things change. So check this out. All this volume right here. Some of the larger fish, larger perch, and who knows what else, travel up and through this grass, and they make their way up and down the creek in this fashion, depending on what the water level is. So I've got lots of volume, lots of protein at my disposal, and that's the idea. I'm going to go ahead and show you this build. Again, we're going to be using sandstone gravel. It's pretty easy to come by. All you've got to do is kind of smash the rock. This is a huge erosion area, so every year it kind of remakes itself, so not too worried about that. The damage is not lasting, and it's ongoing, so it'll recover pretty fast. But the idea is that I'm going to show you how this works, and if you had to, you can do it. One more point to consider before we start this build. Now, as I mentioned before, we're going to be using sandstone gravel. And this is not exactly the most ideal material. Now, in years past, we had pea gravel beds, real hard stone, all different sizes, worked out really well. and it would wash up into real long strips. So right there, you can't see it, there's a lot of gravel. Now, over the course of this year, we've had lots and lots of floods, and that's deposited lots of soil, and on top of that soil, as you can see now, there's a lot of grass. Pea gravel's still there, but it's not really worth the effort of digging it up. So we're going to be using an inferior material. It'll still work. This is kind of the idea. From year to year, even though you've had a resource, it doesn't mean it's always going to be there or easy to get to. So look around at everything you have. The sandstone, the harder, higher quality stones, the wood, all these resources. Make sure that you can repurpose them. And if you had to do without, try and find other materials that'll do the job, even if they're not what you prefer. Alright, so check it out. This is the basic concept. Now I'm going to go ahead and clean it up a bit more, deepen this pool just a tad bit. You can do some other modifications. A lot of times people want to put a few branches in there or a big flat stone with space underneath it so that your minnows or your crawfish or whatever else comes in this trap have a place to get out of the sun and feel protected. Notice that I put the gravel on the inside bank only. And I'm not using mud. Mud is a water barrier. The idea for this trap is that I went ahead and increased the surface area of this pool so that more water could percolate through. Now it's going to take some settling. It's probably going to need to be changed up just a little bit. It's very rare that you're going to build a trap and get it right the first time. But I'm going to come through here, make sure I don't have any holes. The gravel allows the water to seep through. And the idea is that your fish and your crawfish and whatever else get trapped down here and can't find their way back out. Notice that the water level has come up an inch or so. That's going to be an issue. If you want to go ahead and make your rock wall taller, that's also something that you might do depending on the kind of fish you're trying to catch, or even the crawfish will crawl over the top. The taller it is, the less likely they are to jump on over. But for the most part, we have crawfish and minnows in this portion of the creek. So a little bit of a reinforcement, change it up to suit our needs, and we're going to let this thing sit for several hours. Now the beautiful part about this trap is that it can be an active or passive trap. I'm going to show you both aspects of it. So we're going to give this about 2-3 hours. It's a little past mid-morning right now, and the idea is that the minnows on their own travel up and down, and they'll travel down here and start to concentrate, because it's much harder to get out of this trap because of the waterfall. At the end of that, I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how to actively push the fish here. So I'll use some branches, we'll go to the far end, way back behind, and I will scare and disrupt the water enough to push whatever's in those pools on down this way, and you'll be able to see how fast it can catch. This one will take some maintenance. You can go ahead and make it a piece of art if you need to. Other than that, a very serviceable trap. A little bit of siltation after a couple days. It will need to be cleaned up, but no bait necessary. Easy and fast build, and you never know. So let's go ahead and change this thing up, and we'll come back in a couple hours. All right, group. Well, we're back to check this thing. It's been 2 hours, and I would never have believed this trap to have caught this much, kept this much in that amount of time. So you look here, the water coming down has created kind of a spiral, a little bit of foam on top. But if you look closely at the water, it is full of mollies, of minnows. So that's awesome. That is a lot more than I expected. I don't see anything else in there just yet, but the coolest feature is up here at the falls. Now, I talked about them salmon jumping, trying to get back up. Check this out. Look how much activity is happening. Now, none of them are really succeeding. They're jumping up there, even with me standing here talking. They're attempting. Every once in a while, one will come up and pop back down. But amazing action. The trap's definitely keeping what it catches. And I guess at this point, we're not going to actually empty any of them out, but we're going to move up and push them on down. But that looks awesome. Successful trap. That's what we want. So this is the active trapping part. Now we've gone ahead and skirted wide to make sure that our pool right here is undisturbed. So most of them have not moved at all. I've got a little bit of a trickle that they could possibly come back and around. And I'm going to give them a little bit of a barrier with this mesquite branch. Now I'm going to circle over here to where the pools begin. And I'm going to start pushing them all the way down, using my branch to disturb the water and make as much movement to push anything and everything that's in these lower parts all the way to the trap. And that's the idea. So see how it works. Come on, fish. All the way down. Now there are some brave ones that will push past you, but the idea is not to catch everything in here the first time. Just the amount that you need. Looks like I've got a lot moving up front. You'll really know where you're in though. I've got a lot of movement up front. Check it out. See, moving over the edge. All the fish going over. Couple of guys, little perch. That's the idea. All right. More branches, more people, you'll get more fish. Well, our storm clouds are coming in. It's starting to sprinkle here and there, and rain is soon to follow. So here's the idea. Barring that this thing actually comes and floods out, everything washes away this evening, we're planning on leaving this trap up overnight. We have a lot of sediment. I pushed a lot of stuff down whenever I did the active trapping, and so I've murkied up the water quite a bit. We don't really know what all's in here just yet, and I'm starting to figure out that we pushed a lot more fish, and a lot larger fish than I saw with the tail end of when I finally got here. I imagine quite a few came in here because I'm seeing some larger fins, and up here on the corner for a moment there was what looked like a plecotomus. Check this out, right here. Speak of the devil, that is a plecotomus right there, and he just jumped out of the water. That is your sucker fish that you see in the aquariums, also known as an armored catfish. Now that is an invasive species And if I'm to catch that, they tell me that I'm not allowed to let it go again because it's damaging a lot of habitat and out-competing. But there you go, the trap in action. It wants to get back up, but it can't make it. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So hopefully the storm doesn't wash everything away, and in the morning we'll have a better idea of what all we've caught. So pretty awesome. Wish it luck. We're back here in the morning, and this is our reveal, such as it is. Now I don't get to show you any cool crawfish or fish that we trapped, because our trap probably does not exist anymore. Last night we got 3.5 inches of rain. The water's now up over the top of it. It was built about 15 foot back here, so whatever was caught in those evening hours has now swam away, and chances are, whenever the water does recede, it'll be like the trap never existed. It kind of gives you an idea of the semi-permanence of everything that you build out here in nature, especially around water. Now the takeaway for this is that you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. If you're trapping, especially for survival, you want to diversify the sources of protein that you're going after. Don't put everything in the water. Put your traps at different levels. Go for different kinds of food. Because quite literally, overnight, everything can just kind of wash away. So we'll keep on showing you different kinds of fish traps. Guys, like and subscribe. And as always, until next time, let's go, Huck. It starts raining. Well, guys, the rain never stopped. This is a day and a half later, and this has taken some doing to get out here. But our fish trap is about 35 foot underwater. And this is a bit of a different angle, but it's out that direction. So just goes to show things change a lot. But it's like the next video is probably going to be on floods. Right, Huck?